All right, welcome back to another Zalenka review. Yeah, it's my first one, but welcome back. So, this fucking week, we're reviewing. Boom! The Cube! The Cube is getting reviewed. That's correct. So, The Cube was written by Vincenzo Natali. Canadian film, 1997, but was released in 1998, September. Um, it actually was released in the Netherlands first in July of 1998, and then September in the U.S. It was in German and English when it was released, so cool there. I don't know if there's a specific star of the movie, but there is a person that's notable from Stargate Atlantis fame, Dr. Rodney McKay, which is David Hewlett. And his character Worth is, I would say, the cooler character of the whole thing. The character development is very B-movie, but also it's interesting, so you don't get that boring lull, I don't think. Not for me anyways. I'm biased because I love anything that's Stargate. David Hewlett was in Stargate, even though this movie was before that, but you get the idea. Bias. So the main character, I guess, him, and the other one would be the math whiz kind of character, the girl, and then the kind of cop, the aggressive, dominant guy who kind of takes control of the group, Quentin. And basically, 6 people are in this cube. Okay, and spoilers alert for sure. There's 6 people that wake up in this cube. They don't know why they're in the cube. They don't know how they got there, and they don't actually all start in the same portion of the cube. And inside the cube, there's little cells of cubes and so forth that they are traveling through. But starts out, it's kind of a gory start. Someone makes their way through one of the little tunnels from cell to cell within the cube to cube, inside the cube. And once they do that, they set off some sort of trigger or trap and get killed. I think actually the guy gets like sliced with some like stuff, whoosh, some wires, and he's like cubed and he falls apart. So that's cool. Definitely the part of the B movie stuff that I like, which kind of plays towards the best qualities of the B movie stuff. Let me back up there, which is the makeup and sometimes the creatures or just the overall artistry in the makeup that is usually it blossoms when the budget is low, right? That's what I would say. So anyways, guy gets spliced up, but eventually these different people that are in the cube meet up and they start working together to try to get out. They don't know what's going on. They don't know why any of them are actually in there. They don't know any of that stuff. So come through the story, David Hewlett's character ends up being an engineer, and he has a background where he accepted this contract that he built like an outer shell to what this thing is. In his defense, in the movie, he didn't know what that was, right? It's kind of like one of those, the government has 15 different I guess like strings to one project, and then they don't let any of those strings know about each other. So he built an outer shell, or he worked on the design plans, accepted a contract, and so forth. So they like that. I like that, sorry. And because it built tension immediately, like where they were kind of suspicious of him, but at the same time forgiving because he had no idea what that was. The character Quentin, who was the cop, the aggressive, dominant kind of dick through the movie, his character definitely escalates to more aggressive nature towards the end. Which is part of the nice kind of build up and that relief, the revenge, I guess, towards the bad guy. Definitely a psychological thriller and sci-fi based because it's mostly the tech part of how this thing works and everything. Then they have the aspect of how they are supposed to figure out how to get out, which is like these coordinates at each tunnel point between between a cube and a cube within the cube. So they eventually, over time, used the math whiz, the girl's character. I cannot remember her name right now, and kind of make their way through without getting to trapped or triggered rooms. And they come across a guy named the Wren, who's like a ex con who's done like the most prison breaks or something successfully. And so he's in there, and they start thinking they're going to follow him. He is using a boot to like throw into certain ones or not, and the chemical trigger goes off, and he ends up dying. Yeah, blah blah blah. With like some really cool makeup with his like face melting inward and stuff from this like chemical acid stuff. It's really cool. So that's kind of what the plot is, and then they're slowly getting hungry. They're slowly getting tired. They're slowly starting to lose their minds, right, and get more paranoid of what the whole situation is, I guess. And that's the beauty in this movie, and I think why it's a cult classic nowadays. Because when it was released, I think it only made like 58 on the opening weekend, or $58,000, and I think over the lifetime of all its theatrical stuff, it was like 500,000. So might not have been the most big when it first came out, but definitely one of those movies that tapped into that fun but campy and still interesting enough sci-fi movies that were coming out at the end of the 90s. And I liked it. The director also has a movie called Splice, which is pretty cool. Won't give anything away there because we're not talking about Splice. We're talking about the Cube. So the Cube escalates. They're getting through their thing, and obviously I think the motto of the whole movie is, it's right there. Don't look for a reason, look for a way out. So they're continuously looking for a way out. Along the way, some people get killed. From the group, they stumble upon a guy that's mentally handicapped. They use some pretty bad terminology to describe him, sometimes retarded and all that stuff, and he becomes a risk in Quentin's eyes. So that's a good another point of tension for the movie and the plot, I guess. This mentally handicapped character, actually, his name's Kazan. He actually turns out to be somewhat of a kind of a savant, because he's able to find the prime numbers, or the root of certain prime numbers that were related to the numbers from going tunnel to tunnel or cube to cube. And you can hear my kids in the background maybe complaining, but that's okay. So the cube, Kazan ends up being kind of a savant and ends up helping the math whiz character, the girl. And along the ways, that's kind of a cool little interaction towards the end there. Another thing that was nice was there's another girl character. She's kind of like a paranoid of government style personality, and she's a doctor, and she's kind of button heads a lot with Quentin. And there's a point when they get to the edge, they see the outer shell, they can't get to the outer shell to escape, so they kind of take their clothes and make some stuff to kind of go downward. She finds that there's no way to get in there or to escape that way, and it's a scene where Quentin decides to let her go and slip to her death. And that's another great point of tension for the characters that still have to kind of move forward, because I think everybody in the group immediately questioned if it was an accident, right? And that was a good part of it. It was towards the end there. And again, I'm not going to give away the actual ending to spoil the whole thing, but there is a point where David Hewlett's character gets kind of some revenge, and it plays out nicely. Now, some really notable dialogue, I think, which is cool from this movie because it is B movie, but it has some great dialogue points. One is they are talking about who would make this cube, and that it's basically pointless. And then David Hewlett's response is, that's the point. And I thought that was one of those kind of funny inside jokes. It's pointless, and that's the point. Yeah, boom, 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 boom. That was my drum solo. So that was one I really liked. Another one I liked, it was early on in the movie when Quentin sees how unmotivated David Hewlett's character Worth is to getting out and saving his life, right? Kind of just accepting the fate, like, life is shitty, so I'll just sit here. This cube is shitty, so I'll just sit here kind of attitude, right? Quentin says, hey, not all of us have the luxury of playing nihilist. and David Hewlett's response is, not all of us are conceited enough to play hero. And that was a really notable line for me of the movie. I've seen this movie probably 3 or 4 times in total, and I probably am going to be able to watch it a few more times without it getting completely spoiled, to where I can just second nature muscle memory to the movie, where nothing is new or nothing is even able to be kind of fresh if I wait a few years, that kind of thing. But it is definitely a rewatchable movie. I definitely feel it's got the B movie rating, but at the same time, I would say it's 9.5 out of 10 stars for my rating, and that's because I'm biased towards David Hewlett and anything Stargate. I'm also biased to the way that the writer writes in some of the numerical things between cube to cube, as far as it being a way to get out, essentially giving them like a way to get out if they needed to, right? So overall, the cube was great. Again, it was Vincenzo Natali was the director. He was actually a part of the writing team as well, so that's good to see a writer that's able to be behind, in the director's seat, and I guess see the story through from paper to the end result. Sometimes that might not happen as the writer hopes. So that was good there. I feel like there is a sequel, Hypercube. It was really hard to sit through that one. Not because it was B movie, but it was less interesting with the mathematical stuff. It does pick up towards the end once you kind of give it some time to flourish. And it's one of those other ones where it could definitely has potential for cult following, but I think the Cube, the first one, is where it's at. There is a third actually as well, that it's kind of like a prequel to the whole idea of this cube being built for no reason, I guess, or I don't know what's the reason. So that's my 2 cents, but who cares, right? It's my opinion on a fucking movie. Ooh, I said the F word. Well, I mean, this is my first review, so if I wasn't doing something cool or whatever, sorry, not sorry, whatever. My name's Chris, but I'm going by Zalenka, so it's going to be Zalenka's Reviews. We're going to be doing this week to week, and the best part is Zalenka is fancy because it matches my music stuff that I release, and it's like a whole part of this big branding thing, because you got to brand everything nowadays if you want to be successful and have t-shirts and all kinds of stupid shit. So again, this was Zelenka's first movie review, and the movie was The Cube. So go take a look. It's on Netflix. I'm sure you can find it around. I believe on Amazon it's $1.99 or $2.99, something like that. It's a great movie. Something that you should definitely take a look at. Now it being October, throw it into your mix of creepy movies. There's some definite cool death scenes, and it can maybe be part of your October movie run rotation. So give it a shot. The Cube, David Hewlett. I don't know any of the other actors' names, but the director was Vincenzo Natali. Great stuff. The Cube. Adios.